Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. And for this video, we're going down under, we're going to Australia. I haven't talked about this case for a while. Everything's been consumed with the Nancy Guthrie case. Yesterday was after the absolute madness of the day before, when the poor guy who was detained and questioned Carlos, then they decided, no, he had nothing to do with it, released him. I hope he's suing them for their breaking and entering of his property and the upset, etc. Really, yesterday was a very sort of quiet day as far as the Nancy Guthrie case was concerned. We felt like after they released the photos, the CCTV photos, video, and then arrested that guy, and then it felt like, something was really going to break in that case. Well, it hasn't. So apparently yesterday they found a black glove conveniently just hanging around that they hadn't found before. What else happened yesterday? Oh, some activity in the Bitcoin account. Somebody saying if they were paid one Bitcoin, which I think is about 50 grand or something, $50,000, they would give information about the kid. So it's all been a load of rubbish again yesterday, just rumours, speculation, no press conference. But that sheriff doesn't want to do a press conference. Maybe he's been told to keep quiet by the FBI. Seems to be some bad blood between him and the FBI, from what I can gather. Anyway, so I'm not talking about Nancy Guthrie today, or at least not this morning. At the end of the day, poor Nancy is still missing. Her family is still going through hell. And we're going to move on and talk just for this morning. We're going to talk about Gus, because this is another case that needs a resolution. This little angelic boy, I'm sure he wasn't angelic. He was probably really naughty, because 4-year-old boys are naughty, of course. Disappeared, was it last September? I think it was the end of September last year. Never been seen since. He lives, this is, as I say, in Australia, in Yunta near Adelaide. He lived with his mum and his two grandmas, because one of his grandmas has transitioned about 10 years ago, was his grandpa, but transitioned to be a second grandma, Josie. But her and Shannon, the other grandma, stayed together. I don't know what sort of marriage it is. That's their business anyway. But yeah, so it's I think you could say it was a non-conventional family background that Gus comes from. There's not many people who've got two grandmas in that way, which in itself doesn't mean anything. But he apparently lived on this sheep station, remote, sprawling, massive sheep station, with his mum, with his little brother, with his two GMAs. Now, at the time, they were saying that his mum and dad were still together, but the dad was living somewhere else because he didn't get on very well with Josie, the transition grandma. It's such a complicated story, this, as I say, the family relationship's so complicated. It's confused a lot of us. Anyway, apparently, the story was that on September the 31st, I think it was, Gus was playing outside on a pile of sand. Let's have a look at his GMAs, actually, while we're at it. So this is Josie, the transitioned grandma. You would never guess, would you? And this is Shannon, who's the grandma who supposedly was looking after Gus and his little brother, and left Gus playing outside. And Gus, when she went to call him 30 minutes later, which is a long time to leave a 4-year-old child playing unattended in a place like this, which had a lot of dangerous items in it. When she went to get him, to call him in for his tea, he'd disappeared. This was the story. Anyway, we're going to talk about it. But first of all, let me just say my thank yous, because otherwise I'll get too much into the rant. Not the rant. Oh, it's not going to be a rant. Well, it is a bit of a rant. You know, where is this little boy? Poor little thing. Anyway, thank you for watching, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing. Thank you, special thank you to my members. It's bloody Thursday again. I can't believe it. It is Thursday again. So, members live tonight. Thank you to those of you who bought me Ko-fis, contribute towards my computer fund. I need to sit down one day and see exactly where I am with it. I'll try and do that over the weekend. I always try and do things over the weekend and end up not doing them, but I am going to. Thank you to those of you who send me emails. I've had some. I've not been very good with my emails just lately replying, because it's just been all too chaotic. But yeah, very interesting cases that people send me. Lots of things, you know, that I want to talk about that people have mentioned in emails, but I just haven't got around to it because it has been all consumed with the Nancy Guthrie case. But I am going to talk about these other cases as well, because they're just as important. So yeah, thank you to my lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Replay Crew. And now let's just say hello to those of you who are brave enough to come into the chat. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. I feel a bit giddy this morning. I'm only on my second coffee as well. Maybe I've got a bit of a caffeine rush. Hi, Mark. Hi, Daniel. Yeah. Happy Thursday. Hi, Snoopy. Hi, Angel. Hi, Tracy. Oh, a lot of you up early and about this morning. Well, some of you, of course, are in places where it is night, daytime. Hi, David. So, now, first thing I just want to say here is, you know, and we shouldn't, you know, we can't comment on the way people look in one way, but, you know, it is, to me, I'm struck really by the grandma that was looking after Gus. She looks so sort of, she looks too elderly to be looking at. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. This is why I'm hoping my son gets his head together and gets some grandchildren before I'm too old and infirm to look after them. You know, that lady, do you know who she reminds me of? Mrs. Pepper Pot. I don't know if, when I was a kid, I always was a good, an avid reader when I was a kid. And I remember the Mrs. Pepper Pot books. That's what she reminds me of. She doesn't look, you know, she doesn't like. One thing you can say about Josie is she looks very strong and quite intimidating, to be honest. And especially, she's very muscle bound. When she came out with the shotgun to the Daily Mail reporter, it looked bloody terrifying, like something off a horror film. But she looks strong, you know, and you think she'd be capable if she was looking after the kids. But the other lady, Shanann, she just looks, you know, looking after two young children. Gus is 4. He would have been into everything. Mischief, you mentioned it, he would have been into it. And then there's a little, I think 2, the other child is. It's a lot to look after for a woman who doesn't really look like that sort of capable. Sorry, I'm just saying my thoughts. Yeah, Snoopy, maybe, hi Snoopy, maybe fever. Yeah. How do you cope? It's hard to cope with toddlers. You have to watch them every minute. And she left him, according to her, for 30 minutes. Can't leave a toddler unattended for 30 minutes. So, you know, that did strike me. Now, of course, what's happened in this case was, so this was the story that apparently Gus and his brother, they were with Shanann, the Mrs. Pepperpot, Gma, and she left, he was playing outside on a pile of sand, and when she went back half an hour later, I'd say 30 minutes, long time to leave a child unattended of that age. He'd gone, disappeared, just poof, into a puff of smoke. Absolutely disappeared. So they called the police. I think they had a little look around first, called the police. Police have searched, there's been so many searches done because this was the end of September last year. So now we're in February the following year. So this has been ages. It's been nearly 6 months. No sign of Gus. So nobody has found any sign of him, not his clothes, his hat. Nothing has been found except for one boot print was found, wasn't it? That they thought might have been Gus's. One. Just simply staged, I think, put there. But, if it is indeed his boot print. So the police last week, they made a very dramatic move, didn't they? They came out and said, after saying all this time, oh, no, no evidence of foul play, etc. They came out and declared that the disappearance of Gus Lamont is a major crime. And they said that one of the people in the household had stopped cooperating with them. They'd given conflicting accounts of what happened. Now, they left us to find out ourselves who they were referring to. But what they said clearly was that it did not apply to Gus's parents. So we can assume that Gus's parents are in the clear. But then which of the Gmails is it that they've declared a major suspect? So they've declared a suspect, but they haven't arrested anyone, they haven't charged anyone. They haven't said which of the Gmails is the suspect, but it has to be one of them because they said it was someone living at the Oak Park station, but not the parents. I mean, for God's sake, what's this? A Cluedo game, police. I mean, just for God's sake, what a sort of thing to say. Yes, we've declared this a major crime. We don't believe that Gus walked away. There's no evidence that he walked away. We think he's dead. They said that. We think that Gus Lamont is dead. Whether it was accident or foul play, we don't know. And one of the people that were living at Oak Park Station, they're the main suspect. But we're not telling you who it is, but it's not the parents. You know what I mean? It's like, what is it, Colonel Mustard in the library with the spanner? I mean, we're just left to sort of try and work it out ourselves. Anyway, it's one of these two women, probably the combination of the two of them. I can't see that Mrs. Pepper here, Shanann, that she would have been able to cover up Gus's death without help. I just can't see it. How would she do it? It's got to be, and don't forget though, the police have said one suspect has been identified. They haven't said suspects in the plural, but you've got to imagine that if one, so they've lawyered up. So these two Gmails have both lawyered up, but with separate lawyers. That's interesting as well, isn't it? What the hell is going on in this case? What the hell is going on? It's just, now, I don't know how Gus's mum is feeling about all this. So this is what we're going to talk about in a minute. Apparently, it turns out now, because in the beginning, it was said that Gus's parents were still together, even though they lived separately. She lived on the Oak Farm and he was renovating a property a couple of hours away, but they were still together, it was said. Now they're saying, no, they're not still together. It's not the parents, Kelly. The police said specifically not the parents. They're not referring to the parents. This is what I mean. There's 4 people lived in that house. 5 people lived in that house at the end of the day. There was Gus, his mum, his little brother, and the two grandmas. And the police have said, well, Gus is dead. You can presume it's not the little boy who's only a baby. And the police said specifically it's not the parents. So it's got to be the GMAs. It's just got to be. But they haven't actually said that clearly. Ah, you meant the G parents, yeah. Okay. So now it transpires that in fact they split up a little while. Let me take my banner off. A little while before. But remember, the police have specifically said it's not them, so it's not to do with that. Now, I know from what I've read, I know from what I've read that the father didn't get on very well with Josie, the GMA, the transition GMA. Uh, I just, listen, I just, this is poor Gus, just poor Gus. I think that's the words that I'm looking for. Poor Gus. This is the life that Gus was born into with all its intricacies. I mean, not that it mattered, doesn't mean say he wasn't loved. I'd not like to believe that whatever has happened to Gus is a murder. You would hope that it was an accident. But how could these GMAs, how could you cover up your grandchild's death like that? How could you, if it was an accident, you'd be straight on the phone to the police, the ambulance, maybe they could save him. Something. Not covering it up, burying his little body somewhere. Where is his little body? Where is it? Will he ever be found? And the thing is, these GMAs are going to live under the cloud of suspicion forever. And what effect is that having on their daughter? So the daughter, I think she's called Jessica, Gus's mum, she's had a right complicated upbringing, hasn't she? She's been brought up by mum and dad. Then suddenly a dad becomes another mum. And then, well, she was living there with her children, so you presume that she had a good relationship with them, otherwise she wouldn't have lived there. I don't know. But whatever, this GMA, we've seen how aggressive that GMA is. She's gun happy. She was there with a gun when the Daily Mail reporter came round. As irritating as it must be, you don't go out with a loaded pump action shotgun. Said that she was going to kill a snake on the porch. Is that what happened to Gus? Was she going to kill another snake on the porch and Gus got shot by accident? Was Gus playing with the gun? The thing is, was that gun just lying around somewhere? Children play with guns, don't they? You can see that Gus might want to play cowboys and Indians or something like that. Say, oh, look at this gun, and then end up, having a terrible accident. But what? Accidents happen. So I don't understand why they didn't just immediately contact the police or ambulance, etc. So the thing is, the police have declared it a major crime. They've said they have a suspect, but it's not the parents. So it's obviously one of these two ladies. So when all this happened last week, we thought, well, I certainly thought, oh gosh, this is going to come to a head quickly now. But no. So we're a week on. We're no further on. They've lawyered up with separate lawyers. The mum's moved away. We're going to see where the mum supposedly moved into a family house in Adelaide, and then now she's supposedly living with a friend. How will she feel knowing that her own parents are accused of killing her son? Publicly accused. So although the police haven't arrested anyone, they have publicly made it clear that they think one of these two women have done it. So why did they do that? And why haven't they arrested anyone yet? Now they're probably waiting for that last bit of evidence. So what they said was that there were inconsistencies in the stories that they were given. And then when they challenged those inconsistencies, this person, who we don't know which one it is, removed their cooperation from the case. When they were challenged about the inconsistencies in what they said had happened to Gus, the timeline and the events, etc., of that day. The thing is, if you're lying about something, you have to remember what you've said before, because the police will remember what you've said before. So the police said, due to inconsistencies in the stories, they challenged their versions, their accounts, and they got angry, whoever it was, and withdrew their cooperation. So that's why the police have declared them a main suspect. But of course, they have not found Gus. So where is Gus? So, this is a farm. This is a huge, sprawling sheep station. And is there an incinerator on this place? So somebody sent me an email about this, and they sort of linked it to a case. Sometimes it happens on farms and things. There was a big case in Ireland not long ago. I am going to look at that case when I get round to it, of a farmer who went missing, and then eventually all they find are little sort of shards of bone and things like that, or they may find some trace. But of course, with a tiny little body like Gus's, that's even easier to get rid of if you've got a great big incinerator. And the other case, that when this person sent me an email, it brought to mind the case of April Jones in the UK, who was kidnapped by Mark Bridger in Wales in the UK, and she was never found. But shards, pieces of her bones were found in the fireplace in his cottage. So it seems likely that that's where poor April ended up, but her body, was never found. So, there probably wasn't much, to be brutal. She was a young little girl as well. She was older than Gus, but not much older, so these people are absolute twats, aren't they? Sorry, excuse my French, but they really are. It's bad enough what you do to someone, like in the case of Mark Bridger, he's such a low life, bad enough what he did, kidnapping and murdering a little girl. And then what he did afterwards, and then he's never cooperated with the police to say, or with her family to say where her body is or what he did. He's never even confessed. I think he still claims he's innocent. Though he must have pled guilty at the trial anyway, I don't know. But what it's just horrible, horrible people. There are horrible people in this world, but you do not expect it from the Gmals, do you? They know where this little boy's body is. How could they keep it? How can they keep his remains from their own daughter? Not give her the peace of mind. Maybe they hate his dad. Well, fair enough, then they don't care about him. But they don't hate their own daughter, surely, do they? So can't they give her the peace of mind of knowing what's happened to Gus? Horrible people, horrible. You don't get any worse, in my opinion, than this. Really, really horrible people. And at the end of the day, not meaning to be rude, but she's an elderly woman. Maybe she just can't face going to prison at her age. But she's that again, so selfish, isn't it? So she don't want to go to prison, but she'll ruin her daughter's life by never telling her daughter what happened to her little boy. She ruined Gus's life. Presumably it was an accident. I would hate to think that it was deliberate, whichever of these Gmals did it. They just care about themselves. They don't want to go to prison for the rest of their miserable lives. So what they'll do is they'll put their daughter in a prison cell for the rest of her life, not knowing what's happened to her son. Gus has, he's not got any life left because he's dead, according to the police. Police are pretty convinced he's dead. They said they've got no evidence that he was either abducted or that he wandered away They've searched, they could not search anymore, so they believe there's more to it. And they are currently analysing forensically things that they took away, a motorbike, a car, data, etc. So hopefully some more concrete evidence will come up, and whoever's responsible for Gus's death will be arrested and held to trial despite their age. And Mrs. Pepper Pot, for God's sake, just terrible. Well, if she was left looking after Gus and the little baby, it shouldn't have happened, because she doesn't look capable. I'm sorry, but she doesn't. You don't leave an old, and she isn't that old, to be honest, but she looks a lot older, and she doesn't look very strong, whereas the other one, Josie, she looks, she doesn't look infirm, does she? That's for sure. So let me just show you then that this article that I just wanted, it came up. In fact, I've got a video. So in fact, no, I'll go with the article because with this computer, the videos. Oh. No, let's look at the video first. What have I got handy? No, we'll look at the article. Whatever comes up, we'll look at. So yeah, this is the Daily Mail, the good old Daily Mail, and the Daily Mail is not my favourite paper, but they are quite good with stories and things. They do certainly get, they've got that footage. Water, which gave us an insight really into what sort of person Josie is. She was so aggressive. Oh, I've got to take the other one off first. Oh, come on. The great is not responding. Brilliant. Brilliant. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can read the article to you. I don't have to show you the article. So, exclusive. Of course, this is the Daily Mail. So, exclusive. Gus Lamont's parents in shock split as new details emerge over missing child's mother, Jessica Murray, and his grandparents, Josie and Shannon. So, let's see. So apparently, according to the Daily Mail, Gus vanished from his grandparents' outback sheep station. A family friend has revealed. And on Thursday, South Australia police said they believe the 4-year-old was dead, declared his suspect within his detectives said that they suspected that a family member living at Oak Park Station, which is a 60,000 hectares or acres South Australian property around 40 kilometres south of Yunta was involved. So the police have said specifically that this person is involved. So, you can't get any more. Gus's mother and father, Jessica Murray and Joshua Lamont, were not suspects. So, yeah, it's coming up now. Come on. Nothing wants to work for me today. Oh, hang on. Right, and this one stayed. Right, it should come up now, I think. buffering. No, 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 that's not what I wanted to put up. Ay, ay, ay. This bloody computer. Honestly, this computer's going to get flung through the window before I end up getting a new one because you just can't with it. It's just impossible, impossible to try and, right, remove. Right. Then I want to put up the other one. God. I will enjoy throwing this computer through the window, actually. Ah, there you go. But I did want to have my picture up there. Oh no. It's just not doing what I want it to at all. Ay, Dios. Oh, that'll do. I'm trying to put up my picture as well because for some unknown reason people do like to see me as well, but I'm not sure why. So it can now be revealed that the couple had separated before Gus vanished, with Miss Murray and her newborn son Ronnie living with her parents Shannon and Josie Murray on the remote station. So don't you think it seems logical that if Shannon, the little Miss Pepperpot, Mrs. Pepperpot woman, was she looking after a newborn baby and a toddler? It's a lot, isn't it, to look after? And maybe the newborn baby Ronnie just took up all her attention. She left Gus outside for too long, and Gus had an accident. It seems likely to me that this might have happened. But why she did not just contact the authorities immediately, I don't know. So Mr. Lamont, Gus's dad, had moved on to a ramshackle farmhouse which he was renovating in Belleley North near Jamestown, which is 130 kilometres west of the Murray station. And a family friend said that the relationship had broke down shortly after Ronnie's birth, but before Gus disappeared. She said, I haven't seen Josh since Gus's disappearance happened, and I don't know where he is now. But Josh and Jessica were not together when it happened. So this is definitely new news. We weren't told this before. We were told that's what we were told. So again, in all these cases, you do get a bit sick of the information. When I know the officials don't have to give like proper information. We don't deserve information in the sense we're not entitled to it. But the trouble is that when we don't get official information, then all the rumours swirl, and we don't know what's true or isn't true. Anyway, what we do know now is that according to the police, this little boy is dead. So the friend revealed that the couple had never married, as new details of Gus's mother's own childhood were also revealed for the first time. Several sources told the Daily Mail that Mr. Lamont attended Oak Park Station 2 days after his son vanished, and the family friend claims Mr. Lamont got into a furious row with Jessica's father, Josie, now a transgender woman, during the desperate search after previous disputes. Now, do you know what? You can see that 100%, can't you? Because Josie, she is aggressive. She is aggressive. We saw it with the Daily Mail. According to her. So, Gus's devastated mother, Jessica, 39, has never spoken or appeared publicly since her son vanished, but locals say she is shocked by the police statement last week. Locals say she is shy, quietly spoken, and was rarely seen in the area, even before Gus went missing. Miss Murray grew up in Jamestown, population 1,400. I mean, it's tiny, isn't it? Where the Murrays once owned a home. 2 hours' drive from the sheep station, her parents later inherited from Miss Murray's grandparents, Vincent and Claire Pfeiffer. Publicly available yearbooks at the town's library showed that Jessica attended Jamestown Community School till at least 2002 when she was in year 10. And the source added that Jessica's biological father, Josie, formerly known as Robert and nicknamed Snow, began her gender transition when they were living in Jamestown. Now, that must have been difficult for Jessica, because it doesn't matter how broad minded you are, you know, at the end of the day, if your dad's suddenly turned around to you and said, "Oh, well, I'm going to be your mum now, I'm going to transition," it'd be difficult to cope with. It would be difficult to cope with. So, it doesn't matter how open-minded you are. It doesn't matter how you believe in let people live and let live. Your father turning around to you and saying that would be difficult to cope with. Anyway, she obviously still had a good relationship with them because she was living there with them at the sheep station. And strangely enough, then, and also I think for the wife, Shannon, I don't know how you would feel, but I think if my husband turned around to me and said, I want to be a woman, I'm going to be a woman, I'd say, oh, well, good luck to you and that, but I wouldn't want to be still in that relationship. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. It doesn't mean that I say I don't like transgender people or I don't believe in live and let live. I'm just being honest as to how I would feel if my husband turned round and said, oh, well, all these years I've been living a lie, I want to be a woman. I would say good luck to you. I would say good luck to you. I hope you find your peace. I hope you find your happiness, but it won't be with me. That's all. I've got to find my peace and my happiness, haven't I? So, I don't think that's transgender hate. I'm just being honest as to how I would feel or how I think I would feel. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe I'd think, oh, that'd be nice having two women in the house instead of having to hope that and will they put the toilet seat down then? It could be that kind of thing. I just it's never happened to me, but my gut feeling is I would say to them, okay, I'm glad you're going to be, what you always wanted to be, but that's not the man I married. So because that'd be like somebody changing into a completely different person, wouldn't it? Or maybe they'd still be the person that you'd fallen in love with. I don't know. But it's a complicated family dynamic, whichever way you look at it. So here is Josie doing the shopping because Shanann doesn't look like she could carry the shopping bags, really, to be honest. So locals said that before inheriting Oak Park Station from the wife Shannon's family, Josie was a builder, but would do bits of everything like tiling, bricklaying, and roofing. While at school, Miss Murray was a member of the Year 8 and 9 touch football side in 2000 and 2001. Yearbook pictures showed she had the same blonde curls as her son Gus. And on a page dedicated to Year 9 students in 2001, she posed on the edge of a group of 4 other students with a thought bubble graphic attributed to her, which read, "Look, can you photo before my face breaks the lens?" In Year 8, she wrote that she enjoyed dance workshops and was pictured on school excursions and in a home economics class. And in a 2002 Year 10 class photo, she was listed as absent. In 2003 and 2004 editions of the yearbooks, when she would have been in years 11 and 12, there was no mention of her. And when Vincent Pfeiffer died in 2004, Josie and Shannon Murray took over the farm. So there's Jessica when she was at school. There's the photo they were talking about. Yeah. There she is with the school friends. I mean, this is what, at the end of the day, this is what her parents are doing to her. It's her parents doing this to her, where she's getting talked about on social media and getting the attention, because people care about what happened to Gus. People know that, well, they always suspected maybe there was more to this story. Now they know there's more to this story because the police have confirmed it. So this really, again, from the grandparents, from her parents, her mother and father, or her two mothers, whichever way you want to look at it, they're subjecting their daughter to this because one of them is not telling the truth, if not both of them. So, I would presume she's not speaking to them anymore. I don't know. I mean, so I really feel sorry for Jessica because I feel like she's had a lot to contend with. As I say, your dad suddenly turns around to you and says he wants to be a mum, wants to be a woman. I'm just thinking if my dad would have, I'm sure I would have come round in the end. I don't know, but you would be, well, first of all, you'd be totally gobsmacked. I mean, let's face it, this is not a feminine man. This is not a man he's that you would think had always been feminine, and he's not. He's very macho man. His muscles and whatever. You know what I mean? So sometimes you might have seen it coming. Like if your dad was very feminine, and you always had an idea maybe that your dad was a bit. That he was likely to be maybe living a bit of a lie or whatever. That happens, doesn't it? But I don't think you would suspect with this guy. Well, I don't know, because I haven't heard him talk apart from telling that Daily Mail reporter to go away and brandish a shotgun at her. He didn't sound very feminine, but, what do I know? Anyway, Miss Murray, who was described as very clever, may have completed her high school education early and gone on to university in Adelaide. So what I'm trying to say is it probably came as a bolt from the blue, don't you think, when her dad suddenly turned around and said he wanted to be a woman? Or had she had an idea? I don't know. On Friday, Jamestown and Yunta locals spoke of their sympathy for the bereaved mum, but none had seen her in many years. One local station owner said he hadn't seen her since she was a child, although he added that her parents were well known and well respected. They're a bit like the bloody Ewings, aren't they, of the area? That ranch is a bit like South Fork, isn't it? They're well known, respected. Seems like the community were very accepting of Josie's transition, and that's brilliant. Because sometimes when you're in remote areas like that, it doesn't go down well, does it? But when someone's different from whatever the norm, but it sounds like she was accepted. She had been accepted. Her transition had been accepted. It's almost like the local sort of JR and Sue Ellen, aren't they? Mrs. Pepperpot Sue Ellen. She's JR. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but you know what? I feel like if I didn't laugh, I'd just burst out crying. So some Yunta and Jamestown locals recall seeing Gus some time ago, but only in the company of his grandmother, Shannon, whose hand he would hold. So it seems like Shannon was normally looking after him. Miss Murray re-emerged in 2019 when she was pictured alongside Mr. Lamont at the South Australian Music Awards. He was the frontman of country group The Cut Snakes, who were popular on the South Australian pub and rodeo circuit and won the People's Choice Country Award. And images from the event showed Jessica dressed in black and with at least 8 piercings in one ear, smiling shyly at his side. But locals also claimed that Miss Murray's parents did not believe Mr. Lamont, who had worked on their property, was a suitable match for her. Oh my God. Oh, so yeah, so he'd worked on their maybe he was a bit beneath them. Again, it's reminding me of Dallas. It's like JR finding out that Lucy, you remember Lucy? She was going out with some workman or whatever, and like, oh no, he's not good enough. He's only after your money. Yeah, maybe you should go more for someone like me. Who in 20 years will transition to a woman. God, how the thing is, you all live and let live, but a lot of people that want you to live and let live when it comes to them, they don't want to live and let live when it comes to other people. So, it sounds like Josie was a bit sniffy about Gus's dad. But you know what? Like, we've all got, I find this in life. What a lot of people expect you to do as far as they're concerned, accept that they want to become a woman, or accept that they decided to do this, but they're not accepting of other people. A lot of people who are, how can I explain it? People have double standards, don't they? It's like I see it all the time here in Spain with British people come over from the UK where they moan about all the immigrants not speaking English, and this, that, and the other, and they come over and live in Spain and don't bother learning Spanish, and they just can't even see their how duplicitous that is. It's like, oh well, I speak English; they should all speak English. But oh no, these immigrants that come to Britain, they should learn our language. But British people, a lot of, not all British people, a lot of British people do try. They don't try and assimilate. They don't accept the culture. They complain about everything that's not to do with Britain. That's not British. They don't sell sausages, or they don't speak English at the school. People are duplicitous, aren't they? They do have double standards. So it seems like Josie, who wanted to be accepted for what she was or what she wanted to be, maybe didn't accept Gus's dad for what he was. That he's not like he was a workman. Anyway, I think we don't know exactly the dynamics, but we clash. And Jessica would have been right in the middle of it all. So throughout the investigation into Gus's disappearance, there's been confusion over the nature of his parents' relationship, which in October was described by a friend as a commuter relationship. Yeah, it was definitely said in the beginning they were still together, but they just lived apart. A neighbour at an Adelaide home owned by Shannon Murray, which was used by Mr. Lamont, told the Daily Mail the young couple and their sons at times lived in the city. And they said they would often see Mr. Lamont and Miss Murray walking with their children and dogs to a nearby playground. And he said he saw Gus just weeks before he vanished from the station. Now that's interesting, because this has been a question, isn't it? When was the last time Gus was seen by anyone apart from the family? That's a question I've asked many times. So, when did anyone outside the family see Gus? Did he really disappear that day, or had he already disappeared just a few weeks before? Then we can presume they're telling the truth, and Gus was alive weeks before he vanished. He described Gus as a lovely little boy, and he said hello to the youngster as he made his way to the park. And the locals said the family split their time between the outback station and the home in Adelaide. Mr. Lamont has since left his Jamestown farmhouse to move to Adelaide, and in November he verbally lashed out at a reporter for approaching him. Now, as I say, you can understand people verbally lashing out at someone is not the same as brandishing a pump action shotgun at them, is it? I think you would, if you're in that situation where your little boy had disappeared and he's presumed dead, you would be pretty angry at reporters approaching you, wouldn't you, really? So, I'm not against them being angry. And the same with Josie about being angry. It's the shotgun with Josie that sort of makes you take a step back. But verbally lashing out is different from physically lashing out, of course. So a neighbour said he was renovating the farmhouse so Jessica, Gus, and their 1-year-old son Ronnie could move in. But the Balali North home now stands empty, with unshorn sheep taking refuge under a veranda where Gus once stored his bicycles. I can't see any sheep. Oh yeah, there's a sheep there. I bloody love Australia. There'd be a kangaroo sat on the bench outside before you know it. It's there's a sheep just sat there casually. Oh God, Australia must be brilliant. So yeah, it's been abandoned. Well, he was supposedly, from what we read, renovating that home for him and the family to move into. So we'll have lost an appetite for that now, won't he? So this is the Oak Park station. This is the actual buildings. It's a massive. All this land around it belongs to it. And Gus was supposedly playing when he disappeared. You can see that he could. Apparently, the father, that was one of the bones of contentions from his dad. That he said it was dangerous. It was a dangerous place for children to live. It looks dangerous to me, especially if you're not going to monitor them. You can't leave a 4-year-old on their own for half an hour. You can't leave them alone for 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're not worried about someone abducting them, which I don't think they were worried about there because people couldn't get into, but you'd be worried with all that. Even in the house right in front of your eyes, they can get into trouble. My son years ago swallowed, well, I thought he'd swallowed. He had this little pool table, just a tiny one. It wasn't a proper pool table. It was a toy one, and he was playing with that in the living room in front of me as I was watching the telly or whatever. Literally, we were just sat there in a tiny living room. And then he started pointing in his mouth. And then I started looking for the balls, from the pool table, and there was one missing. They were just plastic little balls. So off we went to the hospital to x-ray him just to make sure he hadn't swallowed it. Anyway, he hadn't. So when I got back, I found it under the sofa. But the point I'm trying to make is he was literally sat in front of me. You can't. Toddlers will get into trouble. You have to watch them every minute. The only time you don't have to watch them is when they're asleep. And even then, you don't know if they could get up in the middle of the night and go and cause some havoc somewhere. Toddlers are made for havoc. So yeah, I don't think he was being looked after properly. That's what I think. So yeah, detectives swooped on the Oak Park station, seized a vehicle, motorbike, and electronic devices. We have identified a number of inconsistencies and discrepancies. It relates to timelines and the version of events provided to us by the family members. And as a result of these inconsistencies and investigations into them, a person who resides at Oak Park Station has withdrawn their support for police and is no longer cooperating. I can't give you any more information about the suspect or where the suspect is or why that person is a suspect. So, yeah, it's like a game of Cluedo, isn't it? You've just got to work it out yourself. Since police attended their property on January the 14th, both Shannon and Josie have been going around business as usual in South Australia's mid-north. Shannon was seen running errands in Jamestown, 2 hours from Oak Park last week, while Josie was spotted grabbing a cappuccino and a slice of red velvet cake from a Peterborough cafe. Oh yeah, you just carry on. Little Gus is missing. He won't be having any cake, will he? So while Mr. Lamont and Josie and Shannon have all been trying to return to daily life after the tragic loss of Gus, Jessica has not been seen in public. Thing is, they will be able to relax because they know what's happened to Gus. They know what's happened to him. They know where he is. They know he hasn't been abducted. They don't have to worry about what's happening to him. They know perfectly well where that boy is. Uh, and they're going about business as normal. Come on. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So, yeah, they've both retained high profile Adelaide defence lawyers, and they said they're devastated by the police announcement and insist they're still cooperating. It is not suggested the couple have committed a crime. I do think that's important. I think, you would like to think that they haven't killed this little boy deliberately, that this has been an accident. So Josie has hired Adelaide criminal lawyer Andrew A., while Shannon has sought the legal services of Casey Isaacs, also from Adelaide. Mr. A is a partner at Manganay and Associates and has been involved in a number of high-profile criminal cases throughout his career. Mr. Isaacs is from Caldecott and Isaacs law firm and is also the president of Australian and New Zealand Association of Psychiatry, Psychology and Law. And the partner confirmed he'd been engaged by Shannon, telling the advertiser, "We've been cooperating, but we won't be commenting." Here she is, Shannon. So she's the one who was looking after a 4-year-old and a baby. Apparently, Mrs. Pepper Potts doesn't look like she could look after a goldfish. Sorry, I'm just being honest. She doesn't look very strong. Was she watching the football? Because of course it was the football thing that was on. She left it's negligence at the very least, really, to leave a 4-year-old for half an hour, 30 minutes. Anything can happen in 30 minutes in a toddler's life. Toddlers do get themselves into difficulties. He could have, because there is water there, he could have, there's a million things could have happened to that boy. Accidental things. I don't believe, or I certainly don't want to believe that it was a deliberate act. But I can see quite easily that Gus might have had an accident. So on Friday, Josie and Shannon made their first official joint statement through their lawyers to slam the police. They shouldn't be slamming the police. So the police have tried really hard to find Gus. It's cost a fortune, the search operations, and there's lots of missing people out there. And if this couple do know where Gus is and they've incurred all this expense and wasted resources to look for a little boy that they know exactly where he is, I hope they really get the book thrown at them when they're held to account. And they insisted they had cooperated fully with the investigation. So there you go. That's what they say. Let me put my picture back. That's what they say. Let's have another look at the people that are involved. So yeah, there's the G-Mars, the little Gus in the middle there. Here's his mum and dad. Just a devastating story, really, isn't it? Anyway, so it's been over a week now since the police announced all this, but nobody has been arrested, has been charged anything. We're still at the same position that we were then, while the police check all those forensic things. Now we know from the mushroom murderesses case, Australian police, and the Samantha Murphy case, Australian police take their time. They don't divulge any information. Do you remember with Erin Patterson? She did that sort of car crash interview, didn't she? Where she said, "Oh, I love that don't exist on my, look, tears, tears. Please, I'm crying. And I did get all their names wrong. Remember that interview she gave? She got all their names wrong, these poor victims of hers. She said a poor Ian, or and Ian was the one who survived, and she referred to him as if he was dead. She got it all wrong because she just didn't give a shit, basically, because she's a total psychopath. But there was quite a long time before the trial where the police were tight-lipped about what information they had or didn't have, and she was, like telling off the reporters, wasn't she? Well, she started off cooperating with the reporters. Look, I'm rubbing my eyes now. I'm looking some tears. She started off cooperating with she did that interview. And then when she realised nobody bought her story, then she started getting annoyed with the reporters. She didn't bring out shotgun like Josie did, but she started moving them away from her property and this, that and the other. She went from... Thing is, if you've got nothing to hide, well, there are two ways you can go as far as the media is concerned. You can just say, look, sorry, I don't want to make any comment, I'm too upset or whatever. You don't have to say anything, do you really? But, or you could cooperate. Sometimes people like to talk to the media, especially in a case like this, to find out what happened to him. To me, I think if I told this, surely you would, anyone, surely at least up to a point, cooperate with the media, because you want, you'd want your loved one's name out there, any information that could help. But the only reason you wouldn't know that is because you knew exactly what had happened to them. So you know that nothing the media can help you because you know exactly where they know it. So they don't want the attention, do they? So, yeah. Poor little Gus. So it was heartbreaking to know, it was heartbreaking when the police said they thought 100% that Gus was dead and declared it a major crime. And the other thing about declaring it a major crime is they get more resources, I think, because if this has now gone from a missing persons case to a murder case, won't they get more resources, the police? They've already wasted a lot of resources looking for Gus. This is what I'm saying. So right from day one, Mrs. Pepperpot and Gunshot Willie. Sorry, I shouldn't come up with these names, but I don't feel like I have to have any respect for them because I feel like they're liars. So, I don't feel like I have to respect them. I respect Gus, I respect his parents, but I don't feel like I have to respect his GMAs because I feel like they know exactly what's happened to him. Why didn't they just, if there was an accident, this is their grandson. It's like they don't care even about his mum and her feelings. Because I'm assuming it was an accident, so the first thing you do is give it, maybe they're too embarrassed or too scared to tell the mum. But I would say this couple, I've sort of stick my neck out a little bit here. I would say they've never really cared about Jessica that much because they just lived their life as they wanted to live it. Josie decided to become a woman. Brilliant, good, fine. Her life, do what she wants. Jessica decides to find a partner that she loves. Oh, they're all down on that because he's not, probably good enough for her. Live and let live doesn't just count for you. You expect people to accept you for what you are. You have to accept other people for what they are as well. It's like nobody's perfect in this world. And you wanted to become a woman. Well, you became a woman. Well, your daughter wanted to go out with Gus's dad. You should have just let her. She loved him. So, just put out. And now you do whatever you're doing now, you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for your daughter. If you cared about your daughter, you'd let her know exactly what happened to Gus. Both of you. Bloody, I say, Gunshot Willie and Mrs. Pepperpot. Both of you. Come clean. Because, no offence, but you are getting on a bit. And, when you shuffle off this mortal coil, do you really want to go up there and with all this badness hanging over you, all the pain that you've caused to your own daughter by not being honest about what happened to this little boy? Disgusting, selfish, narcissistic, egoistic. Come clean. Say what's happened. No doubt it was an accident, No doubt it was an accident. Is that your real name, Mark? Saville? Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, you shouldn't really say that. Anyway, never mind about that. Oh my God. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, I'm just. Anyway, I'm going. I've got some Spanish to teach. I'll be back later for the. Oh God, I've done quite well with the cold, but it's starting to come out a bit now, probably because I've been talking for a while. Yes, members live tonight. I may have to change it because it's going to be one of those where it's either got to be really early or really late again. I have to just, I might have to change the day again like last week. Just everything revolves around, it's Thursday tonight, isn't it? Thursday. Anyway, I'll have a think about it, but I will let you know. But listen, thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about Gus. Now, I know there's a lot of you out there that care about Gus, just like all the cases that we talk about. And we're going to stick with this case. These women, they need to tell the truth. Just admit what happened. If it was an accident, makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was it an accident then? Maybe it wasn't an accident. So I think looking at Josie with that gun, you wonder if it's some sort of accident with the gun that's happened. If while Gus wasn't being supervised, if he got his hands on the gun or something like that, we'll see. Okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you, and prayers for Gus and his mum and dad, but not for these two. Bye. Oh, and may your God always go with you.